It's the Abba podcast. Let's go. And the next guest on the podcast is James Duke, Nine reporter, and now he's at Fox. Jake, how are we, mate?
Good, bro. How are you?
Good. Yourself, mate? How's things?
Yeah, good, bro. I'm just floating around, doing a bit of footy, the same old. It's I say rugby league season has an amazing ability to go extremely fast, but extremely slow at the same time. So, enjoying it, getting around a lot of footy and a lot of games. So I can't complain. It's worse ways to make a living, right?
Yeah, look, tell me about it. So you've been involved in the game for a long time. You've been serving as a journalist. You're an advocate for the Indigenous community. Talk to us about your passions, your drives, and how you got involved in rugby league.
I've played rugby league my whole life. Grew up playing it. My uncle Phil played State of Origin. My old man played it his whole life, and just kind of grew up loving the game. Obviously, I always didn't have the talent to make it, but then wanted to always be involved in the game. And so I always just I love sport. I love sport growing up. So I was like, I'd love to talk about sport. I'd love to report on sport for a living. So went to uni, studied journalism, ended up, getting lucky with a few opportunities to work at Nine, and then ended up at Fox this year. But I've been a reporter at Nine. I was a reporter at Nine for 7 or 8 years, and then just jump ship this year. And then obviously, as you mentioned, proud Indigenous man as well. So just having that opportunity to be working in those networks, having that kind of platform, I always try and promote the cause of Indigenous people as best I can when I can. Having that platform that I have, which is something that I think Aboriginal people have lacked in this country for a long time, is the chance to tell our stories and have our kind of plight out on the mainstream media, if there's a better way of putting that. So I try to do what I can. So and obviously being involved in rugby league is a really heavy Indigenous population. So a lot of guys in there that are pushing the same things that I am, and I think we should all be on the same page to promote the same causes, and that's what I do with the players and try and tell stories and get people to understand the Indigenous plight more. So that's mostly what I do, and that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, look, mad respect, man. Seeing your social medias, it's something you don't shy away from. And not many people keep that same energy once they have that platform. So again, take my hat off to you for that. Talk to us about the recent transition from Nine. You got a bit of back and forth with Danica, a bit of banter and stuff. How's that transition? Has much changed with now Fox Network? What's the change there?
No, Nine was really great, actually. I was just a news reporter there, and I love being a news reporter, but I've always wanted to get into broadcasting the actual games, get into the actual more sports side of it. Has always been my passion. So when the opportunity arrived to go over to Fox and join Fox League, it was just too good to turn down. Just what they wanted me to do, to sideline and to learn how to host and things. It's what I've always wanted to do. So, it was a tough decision to leave Nine in terms of the people. And, you mentioned Danica. Mason is one of my really good friends. We worked together for a long time. We sat next to each other for years, and we've had a great relationship. We we got each other through a lot of weekend shifts of just slogging away and just taking the piss out of each other. So it was sad to leave the people, but in terms of opportunity and what I wanted to do, it was kind of a no-brainer in terms of coming over to Fox and getting to work with the Fox League to cover the game I love. So I'm very lucky that I had such great options to stay at Nine or go to Fox, and I still get to see all the Nine guys, which is good. I'm always on the sideline next to them, and they take the piss out of me when it's a Channel 9 game, and we're not supposed to get out of our seat as we're broadcasting sideline for Fox, and they all take the piss and say, "You leave that seat, you're out. We'll kick you out." So it's pretty funny. It's good to see them all, and they all take the piss out of me a bit, and call me a traitor. But it's good that we all get to hang out on the sideline anyway and watch footy together.
Yeah, look, that banter keeps you on your toes. It's fun, man. I like seeing the back and forth on Instagram. It's pretty funny, like you said. Round 5. Yeah. What was the moment in the round 5 in the Premiership that stole it for you? What was the moment of the week for you, Jake?
It's a tough one. I'm just trying to think what games I was at. They all kind of blur into one for me. Look, two things, probably two games I was at. Manly's field goal to win it. Bit of an average game, to be honest, but the final 2 minutes, a good finish can make up for a crap game. And Manly getting their first win was pretty cool to see just how excited the players were. The players afterwards with the fans, just kind of a guy I know well, Jakey Trbojevic, is just the most passionate player you can see on a football field. Like, he was going over to the fans, pulling his jersey and thumping his chest. Like, you love to see that. You love to see a guy that works so hard and cares so much get a win. So I was happy for Manly in that respect. And then I think the other game I did on Saturday night, which was the Roosters running over the top of the Sharks when they looked gone for all money, and just some of the plays that young Sam Walker threw out at the end of the game, for an 18-year-old kid to kind of pull out such clutch plays and win his team the game when they probably had no right to. That was pretty awesome to see. And then, I was at the Tigers game as well, and I heard the boos from the crowd at Leichhardt when they went off and they get dusted by the Cowboys. So, those three moments were pretty good. But I was there, so I'm probably a bit biased. Is that when you're there, you're always a bit more excited by those things than when you're not there.
Yeah, no, it's true. Look, when the relief after Daly Cherry Evans kicked that field goal, boy, you could see the pressure that's lifted off those fellas when they jumped all over him. And like you said, that clutch play from Sam Walker, geez. And the Tommy Raudonikis thing, you'd think that they would have aimed up at the at Leichhardt. If Leichhardt Oval wasn't big enough, the event and the occasion, geez, that was disappointing seeing that first half and the effort that wasn't there from the West Tigers.
Yeah, and I was in the press conference with Madge afterwards, and I don't think I've ever seen him so. I don't even know if angry was the word. He was just beaten. He looked almost like he was going to tear up. He looked just like he could barely answer questions, like 2-word answers, just filthy. That's what his team provided on such a massive day for the club. As you mentioned, the Tommy Raudonikis tribute. 10,000 fans there at Leichhardt, packed. Everyone, thinking the Tigers should win this game, but up against a severely understrength Cowboys team that have not been playing well all year. And they just got blown off the park. And, you have to think that, starting that way, there was some kind of complacency in the group. And I asked Madge that. I said, do you think they were complacent? And he said, well, if they're complacent at this level in the NRL, they don't deserve to be there. And you just have to think that they turned up thinking, we'll get this done. This Cowboys team hasn't shown much. And they just got blown off the park by a bunch of young kids who I guess now are, finding their feet in first grade and, the Cowboys have a lot of hope for their team. They just know that it's going to take time because they're all young and they're in a massive turnover phase. So you saw what some of those kids could do on the weekend. It'll be tough for them to maintain that all year round, but they've got something there, the Cowboys. It just might take a bit of time.
Yeah, look, it'll take a bit of time. Might need something like an Adam Reynolds because they're going to have a lot of money in the cap with the Morgan retirement thing. So a few experienced personnel might change it up at Cowboys Town. But knowing Madge, and I've watched Madge a lot take the jiu-jitsu sessions because I train at the same wrestling gym that they come into. He's very hands-on and he's very involved. So for a coach that, gets down and gritty with the players and is involved with every play, and his defense attitude and he's all about instilling those ethics and morals into that team. Geez, it's like the Tigers, they continuously shoot themselves in the foot. Similarly to the Knights, I think the Knights fall into the same category too. I mean, they show great start, great glimpses here and there, and geez, it's like they're their own worst enemy most of the time.
Yeah, the Knights, you can feel sorry for them at the moment. They got a lot of injuries, but they're one of those teams. This is why these teams have all been sitting in that middle run for so long, right? Like they just can't. When you think they're getting it together and they put in a good performance against a good team, suddenly they turn up the next week against a team that they should beat comfortably, and they get rolled. So that's the frustrating thing. If you're, the Tigers, the Knights, there's other teams that have kind of sat around that area the last couple of years, the Dragons and whatnot. So, I don't know. It would be tough to coach. Who would be a coach, right?
Jeez, who would, man? John Morris, it's official. Craig Fitzgibbon, 3 years, $1.5 million. Now they're just waiting to see if Morris is going to see out the year. Geez, a bit of a rough one for Johnny Morris. He's seen the tough times, and when, you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they've opted otherwise.
I feel sorry for John Morris. He's one of the real good guys of the NRL, a really lovely guy to talk to, always honest with his answer and his appraisal for his team. And you're right, like he was thrown into that job. He didn't pick that squad. He didn't pick that roster. He's had to, and it has, that salary cap's been hampered for a while now. They've been really heavy on a couple of guys that have been contracted on long-term deals that, you could probably argue haven't lived up to that billing or have had injury dramas or whatnot. So he's done the best with the squad that he had and that he inherited. And just as he's getting to the point where, there's something like 15 Cronulla players off contract at the end of this year. So, whoever comes in, like Craig Fitzgibbon, will now have the ability to shed a lot of the guys that probably are taking up too much of the cap or move on guys. And then Cronulla's going to have a lot of money to buy players and get into the market and really build on the squad. On top of the young guys that John Morris has developed over the last 3-4 years, your Will Kennedys, your wingers in Mulatalo, Katoa, your Jesse Ramians, all those young guys, and they're going to have some money to play and add on to that. And poor old John Morris did all the hard yards, got him to the finals, and then he gets wiped out of the way. So it's a ruthless business coaching. As I said, who would want to be one? And I do feel sorry for him. But there is a school of thought that, he probably might have been a bit too young. He was thrust into it when Shane Flanagan was ousted quickly. So, I don't think it's the end of John Morris's coaching career. I think he's shown more than enough to suggest he can coach. He might just have to do, another couple of years as an assistant or move around a little bit. But I don't think it's probably the last we've seen of John Morris as a coach.
Yeah, no, most definitely not. And we look to preview round 6 of the Premiership. We've got Thursday night football. The Brisbane Broncos up against the Penrith Panthers up at Suncorp. Geez, talk about a task for the Brisbane Broncos. They're up against it in that one.
They are. I found it very interesting. I saw Phil Gould tweet a stat today which had all the teams and the amount of games in each of their rosters across their top 30. And Penrith, still the least amount of games of all the clubs, their top 30 have played the least amount of NRL games, but they're on top of the ladder. They look almost unbeatable at this point. And then you've got the Broncos, who've actually got a more experienced squad. And the way they're struggling, and people say, it's because they're young, it's because they're young, it's because they're young. But Penrith don't use the youth as an excuse. Look at the way they play. So you have to think, how do these two teams end up in such different places? Considering, they've got the rosters. And it's not like Brisbane don't have the talent. Like people say, Penrith have got great talent, but Brisbane have had great talent for a long time. And I remember when Wayne Bennett was kicked out of the Broncos a couple of years ago when he came to South Sydney, he wanted to stay with that Brisbane team because he knew the talent it had. So I don't know. I don't know how these two teams ended up in such different situations. It would take a royal inquiry to figure it out. But I don't see anything other than a Penrith result. It'll be Penrith by how much? Who knows? The way they've been playing, it could be a long night for the Broncos kids.
Yeah, look, they're up against it. Nathan Cleary, he just keeps getting better and better. You thought when Cameron Smith retired and all the records have been beat, comes Nathan Cleary, look, depending on injury and how his career progresses, but geez, he's looking at every record in the books, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only thing I think that separates Cameron Smith, and you never know, but it was just how durable he was. He didn't score many tries, but because he played 150 more games than anyone else, he was always going to pass, and those records are always going to be harder to set. And Cameron had this amazing ability to almost take the impact out of the game. He didn't get tackled when he didn't want to be tackled. He was never in real high impact kind of stuff. He was the master of getting his body out of harm's way. And not to say he got through 70 tackles a game, but he just had this amazing ability to play the game on his terms. So he never got injured. So he played so long. So he has so many records. So fingers crossed Nathan Cleary does have the same kind of longevity, because you're right, he would pass him because he can score tries, he kick goals from anywhere. But I think it'll come down to just how lucky he gets with injury, because Cameron was just so super durable. It was amazing how he never got hurt.
Yeah, look, and that comes, I think, preparation is key because, again, going to the wrestling coaches that I've trained with, Cameron Smith is technically one of the best grapplers slash wrestlers that they had at the Storms, and they started long before anyone else. And part of the durability could come to the technique because he wasn't coming in recklessly and he wasn't abandoning all the nuances that someone like a Mitchell Pearce did when he tore his pec recently. So it's not something you would have seen from Cameron and a lot of the boys in Stormtown.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as I said, it's all about the way he tackled it, the technique. Like, he took the dangerousness out of it. He was smart about the way he came into that contact, and as you said, he picked and chose when he ran. He was just really good at staying away from those 50-50 tackles that get you injured. Like, and that's how he did it. And he just always controlled the tackle and wrestled better than anyone. So, yeah, the things Cameron Smith did on a football field will be very hard to emulate.
Yeah, 100%. And Anthony Milford, he's missing this week. Do you think much changes there? Do you think he's been unfairly thrown under the bus because of his price tag that he's on?
I don't think so. I mean, anyone who's watched the Broncos over the past 4 years would have to say Anthony Milford's underperformed. From what you saw in the early days when you saw him at Canberra and just thought, how good's this kid and how hard Canberra fought to keep him, even when he took the Broncos to the grand final in 2015. There was up until that last minute when the Cowboys scored, Anthony Milford would have won the Clive Churchill medal. He was the best player on the field. And so I just think anyone who's watched the Broncos for the last 4 years will tell you that Anthony Milford has not lived up to the ability that he has. So look, we're dropping him, whether that's the answer, I don't think so. I think there's bigger issues at the Broncos. Probably, there's a confidence that's been sucked out of that squad after last year. And as you said, there's a lot of young guys. A 5'8" doesn't stop you conceding, 50 points a game. But there is a lot of pressure on people to make changes and what better than your $1 million player in terms of, making a statement that you're trying to do something. So in that regards, he's probably the scapegoat. Do I think the team is any better without him? No. So I don't know. I just think the Broncos are in a tough position, and Milford will be the fall guy, but he hasn't performed. And people have said that, even Kevin Walters has said that he won't be at this point getting a new contract next year. So you have to wait and see what happens with Anthony Milford and what brings him to that next level. If we are going to see the best of Anthony Milford again, who knows?
Yeah, it's true. And like you said, a royal inquiry indeed is needed if we're going to get to the bottom of that. Safe to say we're both back in the Penrith Panthers in this one, and it's going to be a long night for the Broncos if they don't aim up and their best performance isn't there.
100%. Penrith all the way.
We've got the Friday night football, 6 o'clock kickoff at McDonald Jones. We've got my side of the town, the Newcastle Knights, against the Cronulla Sharks. Geez, we've got Bradman Best coming into the side. Wade Graham will miss out this week because of the HIA from last week. Kurt Mann comes into the team as well. Do we see an improvement for the Newcastle Knights, or do the Sharks finish strong and take out the victory this week?
Who knows? Again, this is another one of those tough ones, right? Because the Cronulla, I would have to say Cronulla, again, on Newcastle's injury front. Bradman Best makes a difference, but no Mitchell Pearce. That's huge for them. The Knights' confidence after their loss last week to the Titans was heavy. I can't imagine they'd be riding too high. So I will say Cronulla, but again, a big week for Cronulla, as you mentioned. John Morris sacked. You'd think maybe they want to make a statement for their coach. If you heard Sean Johnson speak the other night on the Matty Johns show, and he couldn't have spoke highly enough of John Morris and what a great coach he thinks he is. So you would expect the playing group to rally and show a real show of support for their coach, John Morris, assuming he is still in charge come the weekend, but I think he probably will be at this point. So, I think Cronulla, too many injuries from Newcastle. They're struggling a little bit, and Cronulla they're a good side. Again, this is why a bit shocked that John Morris is in this position. And I'd be interested to see if he was in this position had they won against the Roosters on the weekend, right? That was the big knock on the Sharks. They can't beat a top 8 side. If they did, can you sack a coach after they beat the Roosters the week before? I don't know. So I think as soon as that loss happened, it was probably the final nail in the coffin for John Morris. But they showed for 70 minutes of that game, the Roosters, the Sharks, that they're up there and they'll be thereabouts this year if, it doesn't all go sideways, which, again, sacking a coach can make it go sideways. So still, I'll go Cronulla over the Knights.
Yeah, look, it's interesting as well because Buzz Rothfield said on the show on the NRL 360 yesterday, the Sharks have been looking outside since November. So they've approached Craig Bellamy. So even if you can, Buzz says he was long doomed before the season started, and it wasn't based off any results because the stakeholders felt that he wasn't attracting certain players, and they also felt that they were getting mixed messages once looking at recruitment, and he was telling them one thing and the players one thing. So they weren't apparently happy with his approach and how he was handling the dressing room in that sense.
Yeah, well, I guess Buzz would know. No one's got their finger on the pulse more than at the Sharks than Buzz. But again, Cronulla's always had an up and down issue with boards and coaches. You never really know what's happening. They've had a few CEOs over even the time that I've been covering the game. Then there's a few coaches, Flano and John Morris took over in quick succession. So you never really know what's happening at Cronulla. I just feel sorry for John Morris. I don't think, as you said, if he was doomed from the start of the season, he was on a fool's errand to nothing. And you have to feel sorry for him because, again, he didn't inherit any of this. He inherited it. He didn't develop it. And he probably deserved the chance to show what he could do with his own roster and the team he built. But that's never the case in rugby league, is it? It's a cruel, cutthroat business, and you move on. So we'll see where John Morris ends up, and we'll see if Craig Fitzgibbon can do any better with the Sharks.
Yeah, look, we're going to have to watch that space. I'm a biased person. I've never tipped against the Knights. I feel that if they minimise the errors, they turn up for one another. Geez, Fafita terrorised them. It seemed like some ABC things were missing, but I feel Blake Green fills in for Mitchell Pearce. His experience, I think, replaces him in that sense. Our big boys keep going forward. We've got a young debut in Braden Masgrove, who's a young Cessnock boy. So hopefully we can see something from him. And, the bias hat's on. Hopefully the Knights get the victory there. And the main game, we got 7:55 kickoff. The Melbourne Storms up against the Roosters. Geez, we've got Tedesco v. Pappenhausen. Are we going to see both in the Origin side, or does one have to be there and one misses out?
Or I would think you never pick your Origin side too early, but I would think they will probably both be in the side. I would think Pappenhausen will be on the bench as a utility, but you never know what Freddie's thinking. You never know what he goes with in the outside backs. Tedesco's a lock at fullback, obviously, but you have Tom Trbojevic probably in the side if he's fit. How many fullbacks can you get in the team? So I guess it all depends on the status of the team, the injuries at the time. But I guess Pappenhausen coming on with 20 minutes to go, that's dangerous for mine. I thought he probably should have played last year. I know he was injured game one. I probably would have had him in my side game too, just for that X factor. They needed something. So Queensland did it for years. They had a guy like Matty Bowen on the bench who could just come on and create something from nothing. So I'm interested to see, but it's a great showdown, isn't it? Like it's a flip of a coin for mine, this game. The Storm, the Roosters, so many great games over the years. I probably will lead towards the Storm just on the Roosters injury toll. Nothing else in between them. The Roosters are down to, I think, their fifth string hooker at the moment. So, that's tough. Sam Walker's just a kid and he was great, but no team targets, players like the Melbourne Storm do. Like he's in for a tough task this weekend with guys like Felice Kafusi and that coming at him, Kenny Bromwich. They'll work out a game plan to really get at Sam Walker, and he's not a big kid. So he's a terrific player, but, you saw Cronulla try and do it a bit last week. I just think they might have a bit too much experience for this young Roosters team with a lot of experienced guys missing. But, never write off a champion team, but I'm going to go Melbourne in this particular instance.
Yeah, look, I think this game is season-defining in a sense for the Roosters. I felt last week the character they showed against the Sharks and the composure from players like Sammy Walker, the Morris boys, Tedesco is terrorising him the more that he runs the ball near the line. I felt last week showed a lot of character. This week we'll see how they go up against the T1 teams, and if they can put a good account themselves, they may still be title contenders. So I'm going to lean towards the Storms, but watch the space of the Roosters. I feel this week will be it's a trend-setting game, I feel. And
yeah, I agree with you. I'll be interested to see. There's not many games that are like that. These days where you're excited, you almost think blowouts these days. So hopefully it's a close one.
Yeah, no, hopefully it is. Are you covering that game? Would you be out there?
I am not at that one. No, I'm in Canberra on Saturday night, for which we'll get to. I'm assuming, but I'm at Canberra Eels Blockbuster on Saturday night, and then I'm at Cogra on Sunday.
I'm looking forward to that one.
The game, yeah. So that's my two games this weekend. But yeah, we'll get to those.
So yeah, we got Saturday 3:00 kickoff. This is going to be a tight one. We got the Manly Warringah up against the Gold Coast Titans. The return of Tommy Turbo. So we got Brinson v Ponga last week, and he goes up against Turbo. How do you see this one?
Who knows, right? Look, Manly, as I said, they won last week. It was, not the most impressive game you'll ever see, not the most impressive win, but a win's a win, and it can get you confidence. And I think the stats are ridiculous on Tom Trbojevic. When he's in that team, how much better they are. I think it's somewhere like when he's in the team, they win 70% of games or something, and then when he's out, it's down to 30. Or don't quote me on that, but it's I don't think there's a player more influential to their team than Tom Trbojevic is for Manly. The Titans, very good last week against the Knights. I think the jury is still out a little bit on their defence. Like, I think Newcastle had no ball, but every time they got in a little bit of space last week, they scored tries. The Titans just had a lot of ball and rolled through them. So it's tough. Maybe I suffer from a little bit of. I grew up on the Gold Coast. I've followed the Titans a lot, so I'm kind of used to watching them fall away and lose, and maybe that's poisoned my opinion a little bit. And maybe I'm wrong, and they'll be much more stoic this season. So, again, flip of a coin. Tommy Turbo back, daytime. I'm going to go Manly. I'm going to go a bit of an upset. I think Manly are not as bad as they've started this season. I know they got a lot of injuries, but I think he makes a massive difference.
Yeah, look, Turbo historically has made a massive difference. As you said, statistically, it's crazy what he's done. It's similar to like Brett Stewart and people like Joey Johns used to have back in the day. The influence he's got on the team it's something that Des doesn't want to step on because he said last week he won't be the saviour. But it is something worth mentioning. But geez, the forwards of the Titans. You got Peachy Fafita, Proctor, Big Tino is one of my favourite. Jared Wallace, he got the 3 points last week. I feel that they're very dangerous, and I feel they can go forward and they're ball players at the same time, very agile. They remind me a bit of the Des Hasler's Bulldogs when they got to the grand final back in the days where Graham was there. So I feel if they can control the game a bit better, I'm going to lean towards the Titans in this one. It's 50-50, like I said, flip of the coin. But should be a good one. Should be a good one Saturday.
Could go either way. It could go either way. And then, again, it wouldn't surprise me if suddenly you look at the score and the Titans win 40-10. It's a hard one to pick. So I honestly don't know. I'm going to lean towards Manly just because I think Turbo will make a difference. But again, I could be very, very wrong.
Yeah, look, who knows these days with those ones? Like you said earlier, they all turned out blowouts and they're not really too close anyway. So the game after 5:30 p.m. Saturday, we got the South Sydney Rabbitohs up against the West Tigers. Geez, the Rabbitohs were red hot last week. The Tigers, the first half they didn't show. A bit too little, too late. They left it. I think it's a pretty easy one. How do you see this?
Yeah, Cody Walker back. Only we're going one way is South Sydney. Michael Maguire, as I said, was filthy last week with the Tigers, and then that's one of those games you have to win. If you're the Tigers and you want to make the top 8, you have to beat that Cowboys team because otherwise you're going to come up against teams like South Sydney that you're not going to beat. and they cost you. You know, you got to get those points when they're on offer. So the Tigers, that was almost a 4-point game from last week. I cannot see them beating South Sydney for the life of me. They're too strong, South. Latrell looking fitter and fitter as the weeks go by. They're just Cody, as I said, Cody Walker-Back, unbelievable player, the best probably instinctive player in the NRL, bar probably Jerome Luai. They're just red hot, South Sydney. Damien Cook, Adam Reynolds playing with a point to prove, wants a new contract. Their forwards, like Tom Burgess has been not really getting the raps that he deserves, but he's been monumental for them in the forwards. Yeah, and the Tigers, I don't know what happened to them last week. Everything to play for, and they just got rolled. Interesting to see what happens with James Tarmo. Madge sat him on the bench the whole second half last week, which I found interesting for your captain and your main front rower to not be put back out there. So I think there's a few issues at the Tigers. I'm not sure Madge kind of even knows what the fix is.
Yeah, apparently that
moment.
one.
You know, you drop Joey Lay, go on.
Yeah, apparently with the Tigers, apparently it was the mistake with the substitution. So they had made an error and they couldn't actually put him back on because they had stuffed up somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, well, I was there and he was sat there the whole second half. So they wouldn't be up to their 8 interchanges by half time. So I think Madge, the thought process was they were chasing points and they didn't want to put him back on. Like they wanted other guys out there they thought maybe you could score points, but I don't know. You've got to have your front rowers and your main players out there. You know, you want to score points, you've got to roll through the middle. So, you know, he probably hasn't had the ideal start to his season, James Tarmo. I think last week against the Eels was the first time he cracked 100 metres for a season. So he hasn't had the same kind of impact that he had at Penrith so far to start the season. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with him this week and the whole Tigers pack. You know, they made a good comeback, and you have to say like Luciano Leilua and Luke Garner have been their probably 2 strongest forwards. And Alex Tual's always kind of working away, but you know, there's a lot left to be desired in the way they kind of played last week. And then their outside backs defence, you know, they got shown up a few times by the Cowboys. So there's just a lot to work on for the Tigers.
Yeah, there's a lot to work on. What was your take on the James Roberts obstruction bunker call at the end? Do you feel that he was influenced in the play or laziness in attack, or what do you think was going on?
Oh, look, I was on the other side of the field. There's only one kind of scoreboard at Leichhardt. It's a bit hard to see, to be honest. But I think it was probably the right call. These days, if you're in the way like that, you're going to get pulled back 9 times out of 10. So I just think players need to be better at just getting out of the way. Don't put yourself in the position because, as I said, they're going to review it. I don't like how long it takes. Like the Tigers were already all the way back at, you know, they're set up for the kickoff, and then the ref goes, "Oh, maybe we'll have a look at it." And then they go and look at it again. And then by the time from try to play resuming, it's a good 3 or 4 minutes. Like, and they clearly, it took them 2 minutes to just to raise an issue and we'll have a look. But like, I don't know. It took a long time. But yeah, I think they probably got the call right, which is what people want. I guess they want the call right rather than, you know, the bunker being slow. So, I think, yeah, I know it stifled the game a little bit and it stopped the comeback, but, you know, you got to get them right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just don't like that the points come on the scoreboard. They're getting ready for the kick and they take it off. I'm like, points should never be taken off, in my opinion.
It's the NFL model. They've gone the NFL model, which is, you know, award it on field because everyone said, oh, the ref's he's right there, award the try. And it's all fine when he blows the try and it's all good and play on and we don't lose any time. But then it's weird when, you know, everyone's celebrating and they go, oh, hang on, come back. But then people didn't like having to sit and wait because all the time they would check everything. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Yeah, look, it's a roller coaster thing. And I agree with you there. You got Saturday, 7:30 kickoff. Canberra Raiders up against Parramatta Eels. Both looking to turn up a couple of performances. We've got Nico Clockstaff. He's out this week for the Canberra Raiders. How do you see this going?
I haven't seen the Canberra team, but who have they got playing at fullback?
They got Caleb Aitkins.
Okay, bring Caleb Aikens, yeah, because Jordan Rapana probably struggled there a little bit last week when he shifted there with Chance out. Look, another tough one, right? Tough to get a read on both teams. The Raiders, I would say, might be too strong in Canberra. And the Eels, yeah, again, the jury's still out on Parramatta. It's the same every year, right? They start so well, and then they come up against a team they're expected to beat, and they get beaten, and you just think, are they on that level with those probably other top 5 teams, right? Are they on the Roosters, Storm, Rabbitohs, and one skipped my mind here, the Panthers? Are they on that level? I think that loss to the Dragons probably shows no, they're not at this point. They might be by the end of the year. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm going to go Canberra in Canberra, even without Chance. I just think the Raiders, I tipped them to win the comp at the start of the year, and I still think come towards the end of the year, they will be a very tough team because their style of footy translates to the finals, translates to just big men, big bench, stoic defence. So I think Canberra will be there at the end of the year. And I think they will be probably too strong for the Eels at home this weekend.
Yeah, and they welcome back centre Curtis Scott. Scott comes back into the team. And Ryan James will be out, and Joseph Tapine will be named that lock for that one. The Parramatta Eels, Ryan Madison is back into the fold. And again, I think the Canberra crowd might have taken some insight to the Penrith Panthers on the Viking clap last week. So I think the crowd and the Raiders will lay him up in this one. And I share the same sentiment there.
Yeah. I think they will be very disappointed after last week, the Raiders. They should have put a better account of themselves, I think, against the Panthers. But I think, as you said, come the end of the year, they'll be better for it. They're still building. I'm putting these lights on. There we go. That makes things probably a bit
legend.
better. There we go.
Sunday, 2:00 out at Cogra, we've got the Dragons up against the New Zealand Warriors. Boy, have the Dragons, they've shut a lot of people up, man. A lot of people wrote them off early on, and they've showed with some great performances the last couple of weeks that they're still a contender.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I've got a few mates who are hectic Dragon supporters, and I was the first to tell them that, especially after that Charity Shield loss, it's going to be another tough year for them. But credit to Anthony Griffin. He's got them playing some tough football, and he's basically reassembled his Broncos team from 2010, really. And he's got them all firing. You know, he just signed Josh Maguire today. Ben Hunt, Corey Norman, Andrew McCulloch. These are all guys he coached 10 years ago. And he's got them back at the Dragons at the back end of their careers. But probably, as he said, I listened to an interview with him the other day, and he said they're in the sweet spot of their careers. You know, they're late 20s, early 30s. And that's where the modern footballer probably is at his best these days, because they play to their mid-30s. So they've got that maturity. And that's the Dragons. That was the style they played a couple of years ago, where they were just hard. They bashed teams in defence. And that's what you're seeing from them now. They've gone back to that. Guys like Tariq Sims wound back the clock, and he's killing it again. They're just, even without Tyson Frizzell, they just got that hard-nosed approach to them, and they're playing really well. And Griffin's got the best out of those guys. It's the familiarity, I think. He's got them all together, and they're enjoying their football, and they're playing really well. And yeah, that's good coaching. So it's good. It's good to see the Dragons. It's good to see someone a bit of a shock. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like coming into this year, you could almost predict how every team would go, and we all know the top 5-6 teams, and then, you know, the next kind of 4 or 5, and then the bottom rung teams everyone thought that would struggle. So it's good to see a genuine out of the box difference. You know, I hope they can continue. I hope they can shake it up a little bit and be a little bit of a dark horse in terms of threatening those bigger teams, because they've got some names in their team, the Dragons. They just probably haven't performed in the last couple of years. Had a lot go against them as well, you know, with the Jack DeBellin thing and everything that kind of threw them over the last couple of years. But, you know, they seem to have gotten past it now and playing really well. So it's good to see the Red V in flight. When the Red V's in flight, it's good for the game.
Yeah, look, it's good for the game. And like you said, they got a lot of familiarity. You know, the 2010 side got a lot of players that are, accustomed to one another, with Maguire coming in as well. For me, the character and the brutality that they've shown, how they turned that defense around since the Charity Shield has absolutely amazed me, because they're not the same team. They're the lessons they took out of that game. Hopefully a season defining, because like you said, it's great for the game. Great to see their fans out. I'm sure they'll have a sold out Oki. The hill there is crazy when they're into it. The Warriors, probably slipped against them again last week. They're playing a lot of one-out football, more conservative. Their big boys are going forward. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, the guy's an absolute freak. I'd like to see an account from them. Look, this game might go either way, but if the Dragons are premiership contenders and they're, top 8 and aiming for top 4, this is a game they have to win, and they have to win well.
I would think so too, especially with the injuries the Warriors have. No Adam Fanua-Blake. They just keep picking up guys out. I think they get Bunty Afoa back this week, but yeah, they'll struggle without Adam. And as you said, if the Dragons want to be competitive with those top teams, they should win this game against the Warriors at home. And it's funny you mentioned the Charity Shield, but that's why you never look into trial form, right? Like the Tigers flog Manly by 50, and then look what's happened to the Tigers. The Dragons get rolled, and then look what they're doing now. So, Ben Hunt said it. He said it after the game. Said, we've just changed our defensive structure a little bit. It'll take a bit of time to get used to after that Charity Shield. And it looks like he was right, because they're defending well and they're staunch, and I see them beating an understrength Warriors team.
Yeah, look, and you'll be out there, so you're going to have the best seat in the house for that one.
Will be, yes. Yeah, that should be a cracking game. Yeah, I love on the sideline. There's no better place to watch it. So, yeah.
And we conclude.
Tune into Fox League.
Tune into Fox League to watch a main man, Jake Duke, on the sideline do his magic there at Cogra. The game after that will be 4:05. The North Queensland Cowboys up against Canterbury Bankstown to conclude a Sunday afternoon football. Geez, the Bulldogs, man. I was hoping they got on the scoreboard last week. They did so. What are you going to see from this? Can the Cowboys continue their momentum and roll on to this one? Or can the Bulldogs show some character and take the win? No Josh Jackson is out this week as well.
I tell you what, if you're Trent Barrett and you're the Bulldogs, you need to be competitive in this game. You need to be at least in the tussle to win it. You need to score more than 10 points, I would think, because it's fair enough against Melbourne. It's fair enough against South Sydney, not scoring points. But, the account they gave themselves against the Broncos a couple of weeks ago, they 26-0, they got beaten. The Cowboys are struggling. The Cowboys, I know they beat the Tigers on the weekend and they looked better, but they do have their struggles. They're a bottom 4 to 6 team this year, you would think. So if the Bulldogs need to be able to produce something. They need to look like they're in the fight. They can't get railroaded, or otherwise there's going to be massive question marks about what's going on there. Their squad isn't as bad as that would dictate. They've still got some quality players. They signed some big name players. They got some experienced first graders. The loss of Josh Jackson hurts, but I would think the Bulldogs would need to show something this week. In saying that, I think the Cowboys will win. Sitting firsthand, watching them play last week, as I said, they got a lot of hope for those young kids, a lot of hope for those outside backs. They probably just need some older, experienced players around them. And they'll probably get Jason Taumalolo back this week, you would think. I'm not sure if he's been named. I haven't seen the list.
No, he's been named. He's in.
He's been named, yeah. So he was named last week, but they pulled him out late. But you would think if he was named last week, he almost played, he'll be back. And I think with him back and some of those young kids, they will be too strong for the Bulldogs. But you want to hope not too strong if you're Trent Barrett, because otherwise that pressure gets turned right up quickly.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with the same way you went with the Cowboys. Hopefully the Bulldogs show a good account for themselves. Now, they've got a lot of strike, a lot of youngsters, like you said. Justin Taumalolo came out today saying that Payton hadn't lost the dressing room and the guys are all on board, and, they're looking onwards and upwards, and, they potentially can get Adam Reynolds. They have a lot of money in the cap. They'll have some money to spend, and hopefully they can both turn it around next season and continue to build their roster. Jakey, mate, thank you for helping us preview the games, man. Talk to us about your podcast, about things. How do people catch you? What are you working on?
Yeah, so you can always catch me on Fox League, just doing the thing on the sideline. Yeah, NRL Tonight as well, a show on Fox, hosting a bit of that as well. So tune in, and then I've got the podcast called Refuse to Lose Podcast. Something me and my brother do. We're passionate about telling stories of athletes that have powerful upbringings, a powerful story and a message to share, and guys that have guys and girls that have important causes that they work towards, and that they use their profile to make a difference. And there's been some incredible stories we've had, over the last year and a half that we've been doing it. As I said, I just sat down with Paul Showtime Fleming, the boxer today. He's got an incredible life. Domestic violence survivor, survived ADHD. He's uneducated, couldn't read or write till he's 20, but he's one of the most interesting, well-informed guys I've ever listened to, especially as a sportsman and a boxer as well. And he's a hell of a fighter. He's just had a lot of obstacles in his life, and he's back kind of, making a difference, and also fighting like his heart's content, and he's trying to fight for a world title eventually. So he's just one of the examples. We've had heaps of rugby league guys on, from your Preston Campbells and your, Cody Walkers, Josh Adokars. So yeah, check it out if you haven't had the chance to listen to it. It's all up there. I think rugby league fans will like it, especially a lot of good rugby league stories in there. And hopefully you guys like it.
Yeah, no, I like it indeed. Look, Jake, you're an absolute legend of a bloke. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're a voice and an advocate for your people, for the Indigenous people of this country. Keep rocking the sidelines. Keep rocking the podcast, mate. Watch his space, Jake Duke, one of the greatest guys in rugby league. Pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for reviewing round 5 and round 6, mate. Legend.
No problem. Anytime, brother. Appreciate it for having me on.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And we're out.